Started. So
Okay.
here we have Aneta Mahalchuk. I hope that I said that correctly. I tried to practice. She is a CEIM, a CFLE, an LMT, and is a nationally board certified massage therapist, an infant massage educator, and an EFT practitioner. She has also studied positive intelligence and owns a brain fitness and education company with her husband in Northern Michigan. Her presentation will focus on the understanding of EFT tapping and positive intelligence, or PQ, and will address their practical applications. So EFT tapping and work addresses the cause of distress and is based on the combined principles of ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology. Positive intelligence works through 4 areas of science: neuroscience, positive psychology, cognitive behavioral psychology, and performance science to weaken the saboteur muscle, strengthen the sage muscle, and build the self-command muscle. So through the combination of EFT tapping, positive intelligence, and infant massage, this will center participants in the present moment and lead to clients feeling more positive. So now let me make sure that we have that presentation shared for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was a mouthful, but thank you.
Of course. And now I will
right.
get myself off of the screen and you are good to go.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Catherine. Message of joy. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much, Brianna, for introducing me and for everyone for being here. I'm excited to be back for year 2 and listen to all the other sessions. I've seen some really cool ones, so I'm excited to go back and review in tomorrow's sessions. So we've got a lot to cover, so let's just jump right in. I'm curious to know how many of you have been around a newborn, right? Dumb question, because we have probably all been considering this is the Infant Massage USA conference. So I want you to think back to the first time that you were around a newborn and think about how that felt. And I want you to think about how often you checked in on that newborn to see whether they were okay and whether they were breathing, right? So through the baby monitor, seeing that chest rise and fall, the peeking through the door, just listening, all of those things, right? And if you were like me as a first-time parent, that answer is probably a billion. I think a billion times a day, I would check that monitor if that baby was not strapped on me to make sure that she was okay and breathing. And so my next question, as you can see on the screen, is, am I still breathing? So how many times a day do you check in with yourself to see if you are okay and if you're still breathing? If you're like me 10 years ago, probably not a lot. And that's why we're here today with this first question: am I still breathing? So it's a question that I learned to ask myself. It stems from Eckhart Tolle, I think in his book, The Power of Now. And I don't remember much from that book, but I remember this 100% because I use it daily. Since I've read it, I use it almost every day. And actually, I used it today. So right now, earlier this morning, as I was telling Brianna, 4 years we've been at this location and never had a problem with the internet. This morning, the tower outside completely went out. So there was no internet, presentation was ready to go, and nothing. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to go to the office, check the schedule. The one day that there is a live Roomba class, no, was it a Zumba, live Zumba class, is during this hour. So that was out. So what did I have to do? Number one, I could have freaked out, panicked, and I had a second of like, oh my gosh, because I am not tech savvy. But what did I do? All right, am I still breathing? Yes. Okay. Center myself. We're going to figure this out. And we did. So coming to you from the Gaylord Library. So thank you very much for public libraries. Anyway, so back to infant massage and how you can use this, right? We use it to get fully present. We check in with ourselves. And why do we do that? Now that we're present with ourselves, this will help us to become present with our clients, with the infants we're working with and taking care of. And we want to put our best foot forward with clients. and be fully attuned to what is their need and how are we going to serve them. And so today I'm going to share 2 techniques with you that help us do just that. So if you can advance the screen, please. The first technique that I'm going to talk about is EFT, emotional freedom technique. So this is something that I use before the session, whether it's an infant massage session or whether it is an actual, so whether I am massaging the infant, my own, or whether I am teaching a class, working with clients, whatever your field is in, you can absolutely use this before going in. So has anyone heard of EFT, emotional freedom technique, before? I know it's gained popularity. Yep, absolutely. Yes, yes, for sure. Yep. So it's EFT tapping. That's what, the shortened version of it, tapping. And so what is it? So it's, in other words, if you could actually advance the screen once more, please. What is tapping? I think Brianna's still there. Oh, yep, there. What is tapping? So tapping is also known as EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's a powerful holistic healing technique that resolves a range of issues. So it's based on the combined principles of ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology. Another mouthful. So in other words, it's a way to focus on the quote unquote negative emotion that you are experiencing, that you label as negative, and you use your fingertips to tap 5 to 7 times on specific meridian points throughout the body. And then this sends a calming signal to the brain that allows you to feel more relaxed and more in control. So can you advance to the next screen, please? Yep. So tapping is proven to reduce stress, lower cortisol, improve sleep, reduce anxiety. Oh, and actually this might be not the unedited, because the corrections aren't in there, but that's okay. So anxiety.
So another way to use this.
That's okay. Another way to use this. So right now I'm going to be using one of the techniques as I'm doing my presentation, so as not to freak out that this is the unedited slide. It helps to relieve pain, increase productivity, and much, much more. So, and there's more and more research going on as in the infant massage world and in a lot of your fields. Tapping changes the DNA expression, hormone production, cortisol and brain activation. There's just so much research going on. And then actually in 2012, there was a landmark study in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease, and they found that EFT lowered cortisol significantly more. I think it was 43% more than traditional talk therapy or even resting. So huge, huge, huge in that field. Can you advance the slide, please, Brianna? And the much more. So that's the part that we're going to focus on today and how it relates to the world of infant massage. All right, next slide, please. So why is this important? Why is this important? Do you think that your clients would gain more, and also, your baby that you're taking care of and massaging would gain more from you if you showed up fully centered and calm and breathing and ready? Or do you think that they would get more from you if you are spinning like a tornado? And actually, Lisa Smith is a parenting coach that I absolutely love, and she calls it storming. So whatever your response is to stress, or your child, if your children have responses, it's called storming in her world. And so basically, how are you expected to find time to sit and massage your infant or teach in the classroom or work with parents? How are you expected to sit and work with them and be fully present and connected and helpful when you yourself are storming? And all of these hormones, all of these feelings, all of this stress, anxiety, judgment, fear, overwhelm, all of this chaos is swirling around you. So what do? Well, here is one thing, and it's EFT. So let's do some tapping.
Yeah, don't touch the slide.
I'm not touching the slide. See?
Brianna's changing it.
Brianna is changing the slide. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm not touching anything. All right, so let's do some tapping. All right, so I want you to close your eyes. We're just going to do a quick, simple round of it. And I just want you to take a deep breath, a nice, deep, gentle breath in. And go ahead and exhale. And I'm going to ask you to do it one more time, but this time I want you to notice what that breath is like for you. Is it a nice deep breath? Is it shallow? Is it kind of tight in your chest? Do you feel yourself wanting to smile? What tune into that? Are your shoulders relaxed? And I want you to think of a situation. Okay, so think of a situation where you are storming, where you are feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, fear, judgment, any of those things. Tune into that feeling. And I want you to rate it. Give it a rating between 0 and 10 of how intense that feeling feels for you. So let me know if you guys have a situation that you're thinking of and that feeling that's just like, oh, that's gripping you. Whether that's, you're having a stressful day and your newborn is crying, and you don't know how to calm yourself or the baby down, or whether you have a class full of people coming in and you have a client that you're working with and they're stressed out and you're stressed out. And so all of this is going on. So, going into it that your client is in a stressful situation, what can you do to prepare yourself to go in there and again, be fully present? All right. So does everyone have their situation, have their rating of their feeling, 0 to 10 on the intensity scale? All right. Nice deep breath. Exhale, and let's get tapping. So we're going to begin. Again, if you know how to do this already, feel free to close your eyes if you know the points. If you don't, that's okay. It's progress over perfection. You really can't mess this up. So I want you to take a deep breath, and we're going to begin. We're going to begin with the karate chop point. So it's a point underneath your pinky on the outside of your hand. Use 4 fingers and just tap, tap, tap. It's almost like you're doing a karate chop. Okay, so just under the pinky. Tap gently, tune into the breath, and think of those feelings. Tune into those feelings of whatever that is for you. Anxiety, overwhelm, that's what I'm going to be using for this example. And then I'm going to move through the points so you can just follow along. And I'm going to make a statement, and I'm going to ask that you just echo it. Okay. Since we can't hear Brianna, who I was going to ask to be my echo, or my husband was going to be my husband can be my echo. There we go. So side of the hand, tapping gently. Even though I feel so much overwhelm about everything that's going on.
Even though I feel so much overwhelmed with everything that's going on.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
Keep tapping on the karate chop point, side of the hand. Even though this is so stressful.
Even though this is so stressful.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
Okay. Third time. Even though I'm holding so much stress in my mind and body.
Even though I'm holding so much stress in my mind and my body.
It's safe to let it go now.
It's safe to let it go now.
Okay. So now we're going to tap through the points. And the first one is the eyebrow point. So it's on the inside of the eyebrow, kind of where the hair of your eyebrow ends and your nose begins. So you can use 2 fingers. You can do both sides. I usually just do one. It's up to you. Gently tap where that ends and begins. And you tune into that stress and anxiety. And because we want to activate the amygdala. So then we can counteract that with the points. Okay. So on the side of the eye, so it's a little bit off from the temple. There is so much going on and it's okay.
There's so much going on and it's okay.
Under the eye, so right on the bone. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
Under the nose. And it's safe to be able to let it go.
It's safe to be able to let it go.
Under the mouth, so you're under the lip and above the chin. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
On the collarbone. It's a little bit underneath it. It's safe to feel this anxiety.
It's safe to feel this anxiety.
So under the armpit, about 3 inches, kind of ladies or anyone, if you're wearing a bra, here it's 3 inches below your armpit. It's safe to feel all this stress and overwhelm.
It's safe to feel all this stress and overwhelm.
In the top of the head. And it's safe to let it go.
And it's safe to let it go.
All right, back to the eyebrow. It's safe to breathe deeply.
It's safe to breathe deeply.
Side of the eye. I acknowledge all of my stress.
I acknowledge all of my stress.
Under the eye. And I begin to feel safe in my body.
And I begin to feel safe in my body.
Under the nose. The more I relax.
The more I relax,
On the chin. The more my mind and body heal.
the more my mind and body heal.
Collar. The more I relax.
The more I relax,
Under the arm. The more my mind and my body heal.
the more my mind and my body heal.
Top of the head. Letting it go now.
Letting it go now.
Let's take another nice deep breath and check in with yourself. So that was just 2 very quick rounds, couple minutes. Check in with yourself. How does that feel? What's that number right now? You can put it in the chat. Did it go down? Did it stay the same? Go up? Was there any kind of movement in that number of intensity? So just checking in with yourself. Okay, so you check in and you see where that level of anxiety and overwhelm or whatever you were going through went down. Yep. Yes. Yep. Marceline, you focus on the negative emotion. And this is why. So you want to focus on the negative because, especially in today's society, it's like, be positive, be positive, be positive, right? That kind of, I think it's now called toxic positivity. An 8 to a 2. Holy cow, that's awesome.
7 to a 4.
7 to a 4. Excellent, excellent. And again, even if you go from a 10 to a 9.5 or a 9.8, that's progress. That's amazing. Okay, so the negative. So you want to focus on the negative because, again, we want to activate that part of the brain, the amygdala, that that houses that. So it's you're not denying it, you're not stuffing it down. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase "what you resist persists." 8.5 to a 6. Excellent. Yeah. So what you resist persists. It's like stuffing down all those feelings. That's how that storm then erupts. That's when you have that volcano that's just like whoosh, and you just lose it because you weren't with voicing the negative. You are just letting it out. You are clearing the way. So that's what the tapping does. It clears that negative out so that you can replace it with the possibilities, with the more positive aspects of it. So for example, I like to do, again, that was a quick round. That was just twice going through the points. You can do that 8 times, 9 times, 10 times for 15 minutes until you feel that it has gone down to whatever level you feel it needs to go down to that day. So I like to do a negative round followed by a positive round. And again, you can apply it to whatever your client, whoever your client is, whatever position you hold, whatever the situation is. Like, for example, with parenting, my negative was, I cannot believe that someone would leave me in charge of a human being. Oh my gosh, what were they thinking? I don't know what to do. I've never had a baby before. Can I keep my baby alive? I don't know what to do. I am so stressed and so overwhelmed. I cannot believe that they let me have a child. And again, you can go through, if you're teaching a class, like, really? People are coming to listen to me? People think that I'm the expert, but I don't feel like an expert. I feel like a fraud. I don't know. I don't know I'm going to be able to do this. I'm feeling all these feelings, all this stress, all this overwhelm. And then you voice it and then you flip it around. Okay, but maybe, what if I don't have to be a perfect expert? What if what I have to say is exactly what one person, two people, 3 people need to hear from me? What if my baby loves me just the way that I am, and I'm building a bond by doing things maybe not perfectly, but I love my baby. And I know my baby loves me. I can do this. And again, so you just feel like even just saying that was an example, but even just saying that, even though I don't think those things anymore, I felt that anxiety rising within me. And then when I flipped that script, I was able to feel my just breath, that sigh of relief. And again, you can do that before a session and, related to the infant massage world, whether you work in a healthcare setting, at home, educating people, it works for anything. And you can do as many rounds as you need. Again, you cannot mess this up.
Other athletes are using it.
Athletes are using it. It is becoming more mainstream now. So, and you can go on YouTube. I'll have a link on my webpage of some of my favorite people that I followed. And initially, so that the tapping that I took you through initially, that's actually from Nick Ortner, one of the founders of the tapping solution. And he and his sister, Jessica, are just incredible, incredible. And that was one that he uses almost word for word, just as a general one to introduce people to tapping. And again, then you customize it to whatever it is that you're feeling. And sometimes you may start off with one thing like, oh, I feel so much anger. And you're tapping through the anger, tapping through the anger. And by the end of it, you realize it's not even anger at all. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's loneliness. Maybe it's fear. So there's a lot in there. So you customize it. Hopefully that answers your question. That was a long-winded answer, but again, the idea is that the same. You voice the negative, clear the space. You do the amygdala is activated, so that way you can counteract that with the actual tapping on the meridians. And then you show up. Then you are able to clear out your junk so you can show up fully present, ready to connect with your baby, with your client, and with yourself. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions before we move on regarding EFT? And Brianna, if you could just advance the slide. I think we're a couple slides back. So we did some tapping. And then the next one. All right. If there are no questions right now, I'll leave room for questions at the end. Where are we on time? All right, we're doing well. Okay, so technique number 2, positive intelligence, or PQ technique. This is something that I utilize sometimes before. Just again, I'll go into the PQ reps, but it's also what I use during the session. So when I'm with my a child and I'm massaging my baby, or when I'm teaching parents to massage their babies, or just if you're with a client in a hospital setting or in their home, supporting them in their birth or postpartum or anything, you can show up. And if something is triggering you, if you have feelings coming up, you can use this during the session with your client, and they do not need to have any idea that you are having these feelings of overwhelm or doubt or anxiety. So what you do is, if you can advance the slide. So what is positive intelligence? I know I spoke on this last year. So I don't know, was anyone here last year? And were you able to learn about this a little more or incorporate any of the positive intelligence techniques? If not, if you don't remember, don't worry. I will go over some of it, just not as far in depth, but I still want you to learn the basic tools. Right? So positive intelligence is building your foundation of mental fitness by strengthening 3 critical mental muscles to shift balance of power from your inner saboteur, which is your negative self, to your inner sage, who is your positive self. Okay, so let's see, where do we start? So in other words, remember just a couple minutes ago during the EFT session where I talked about, again, the negative feelings, quote unquote negative, and the positive feelings. And I say it in quotes because Shirzad Shamin, who actually is the founder of Positive Intelligence and teaches these techniques, he likens it to touching a hot stove. So that pain that you feel touching that hot stove, is that negative or is that positive? I mean, you can say it's negative because it hurts. But it's also positive in the sense that it alerts you that, hey, you know what? Your fingers are burning off. You might want to take your fingers off the stove, right? So it's just a matter of becoming aware. So you use these quote unquote negative feelings to really become in tune of what's going on. So again, you're there for yourself. You center yourself so you can be there for your infants, your clients, whenever you need. So, okay. So what am I talking about when I say the inner saboteur and inner sage? So everyone has negative self-talk, right? In some regard, you may think that you are the bee's knees in one area of your life, but in another area, maybe it is your career. Maybe you think you're a fantastic doula, but in your personal life, there's an area where just like, oh man, this sucks. I can't believe I'm in this situation again. I don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. It's all that negative chatter that you're hearing. That comes from this inner critic, this judge that every single person has. And that judge, not only is that the main person, the main kind of character in this cast that tries to drag you down, the judge has 9 accomplices, which are specific to they're individualized for everyone. So my saboteur might say one thing to me, your saboteur says something to you that's different. And I actually, again, on my page, I will post a saboteur assessment so that you can figure out what your top 2-3 saboteurs are, and then how you can address them. In the meantime, so you have your saboteur, the judge, who is telling you that you're not good enough. So the judge is judging you, the judge is judging others, and the judge is judging the circumstances, right? So he or she, whatever your judge looks like. I have a friend who actually sees Judge Judy. I see the Gooch from Different Strokes. I don't know, I'm dating myself. This is from the 70s and 80s, the Gooch from Different Strokes. That's my bully. That's my inner bully that just says, you are not good enough. And that also, then that judge talks to you about other people. Like, that person's not good enough, and the situation stinks, and the situation isn't good enough, and nothing is going to change until this changes. This won't get better. And so it's that critic. How do we silence that critic and move us over into the sage? And so the idea is that, when we are in fear and in the moment, we have that reaction of, okay, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to freak out. Because again, that reptilian brain that tries to, help us by sending us into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so we are petrified. Some of us run. It depends. And we keep going down that same, in the good place. Yes. So we keep going. Yep. Exactly. Maya Rudolph in the good place. And so we have that judge, and we have that same neural pathway. And again, it keeps building and building and building, because we're building that muscle, because that's how we freak out every time. The idea is to change that, to cause an interruption in that circuitry, so that we, instead of going straight down the highway, we're going to take the off ramp and figure out a different way. And we tap into the sage. And the sage is there where we can use the creative powers of like compassion, empathy. So we explore, we empathize, we innovate, we navigate, and we activate. Come up with possibilities where we can see. The sage helps us see, there's that inner wisdom within us that says, you know what? Every situation, no matter how horrible it may seem on the outside, there's an actual gift and opportunity somewhere in there. So how do we access that? And again, we can spend hours on this discussion, but we don't have that. So I'm just going to move into the third. Actually, can you please advance the slide, Brianna? We're going to, so this was, okay, so let me show you. This was a picture of me about a year before I met my now husband, prior to having kids. And I thought I had it all together. I thought I had it all figured out.
I like that picture.
Thanks. That I just thought that, you know what? I'm good. If I just stay in this place forever, I've got it. Did not have kids, would judge people. All of this just, it was nonsense, right? I thought I felt good. I thought I looked good. And then I thought, you know what? When I have kids, I'm going to easy peasy if I ever have kids. And then advance the slide, Brianna, please. This was the reality. I felt like a truck ran me over. I felt like I had little mommy barnacles on me 24/7. I could not get away. I was starting to get resentful. I did not take care of my appearance. I did not take care of my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health. All of that went out the window. And I'm sure many of you work with clients who feel the exact same way, right? That you just, and that judge comes up. We judge ourselves, we judge others. And you can relate. I mean, can anyone relate? Let me know in the chat if you can relate, or you have clients that you know will 100% relate to this. These feelings of inadequacy where the judge is screaming at you.
I remember taking that picture.
Yes, thank you. All the time. Yep, all the time. I can relate. Absolutely, you bet. All right, so Brianna, please, next slide. Okay, so there are 3 core muscles at the root of mental fitness. So again, we already talked about the saboteur interceptor muscle. That's where the judge comes in and tries to hijack your brain and says, you suck. Bottom line, you suck. You don't know what you're doing. Your clients are going to hate you. Your child is going to hate you. The imposter syndrome, everything, right? And then there's the sage, where we try to get that muscle that we try to build up. So we try to weaken the saboteur interceptor. We try to build up the sage muscle and say, you know what? That's a lie. The judge is telling me that I'm this, but I'm not. I'm not a loser. I'm not a fake. I'm not this, or that. And how do we do that? By using the self-command muscle. And that is, picture yourself in the gym doing reps. We are doing these exercises called PQ reps to help us build that muscle so that when we become aware that the saboteur is trying to hijack us, we'll get that negative self-talk coming in, we are able to hear it and say, yeah, no, that's okay. And flip into the stage like, okay, this situation really stinks. I'm scared. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Help me. What is the gift and opportunity in this that I can see? Maybe I can't see it right away, but maybe I'll be willing to see it one day. And so here we go with the self-command muscle. It's actually, so the example I gave today of the internet, it just basically, I could have gone down the old road because my body still carries that from before. I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I need to call and cancel this. I can't do this. Okay. Am I still breathing? Did some tapping. And then I sat there, and one of the exercises, here's maybe a good time to start one of these exercises. A PQ rep involves using the 5 senses to help break that circuitry. Again, we're breaking those patterns, that circuitry. In massage, I'm a massage therapist as well as an infant massage educator, and it's called the pain spasm pain cycle, where someone, a client comes in pain, and so the muscle spasms because of the pain, which causes more pain, which causes a spasm, and then they're just in that loop. And sometimes just by pressing into that muscle for a moment or two, that interrupts that pain spasm pain circuitry enough where you can take the breath and think of something else. What's plan B? And so, for example, all right, so everyone, you can close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, and I want you to take your fingertips of one hand, your thumb and your pointer finger, and rub them together. I want you to rub them together with such a tension that you can start to feel the ridges of your fingerprints. So keep rubbing those together for a few more seconds. You have that intense focus. There you go. You have that intense focus. You can open your eyes. You have that intense focus on the sensation, the physical sensation, the tactile sensation. Were you thinking about not being good enough? Were you thinking about your client and how you're going to solve their problems and your problems? No, you cut that off right there. You're done. You interrupted that pattern. And so one of the things, for example, I teach in infant massage classes is that you can use these if you are overwhelmed as a caregiver and you want more connection, but you don't feel it yet. Like you don't feel like being there. And I hate the fake it till you make it. I don't like that because I really do believe it is more of a choice. I am choosing to follow my intention. If my intention is connection with this child in front of me, with this infant, if my intention is to be fully present and connect with my client, then I want to do everything I can to make sure that I am fully present within so that I can be present without, if that makes sense. So one of the things I do, for example, with the infants is, okay, so if I'm massaging my baby and I'm just, I want to help the baby. I know this is good for the child. We all know the benefits of infant massage, but I don't quite feel it. I start paying attention. Okay, what's the baby's skin feel like? Wow, that's really soft. I look visually. Oh, look at how pink. Look at how pink that little area is right there, those rosy cheeks. And I zero in on that. So I'm not thinking about, also, a lot of times people are thinking about the past, right? The regrets of the past, or they're thinking about the future and they're in their imagination in the future, what could happen, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas of the past, and the what could catastrophize. I can't. What was it?
Sound like me.
Oh, yes. I fumbled my words here. That's okay. I think of every catastrophe that could possibly happen, the worst case scenario, right? And that takes me away from the present moment with my child, with my client. And so when I'm doing these PQ reps, for example, again, I'm focusing on smell. I'm massaging the baby. What do I smell? That new baby smell? Do I smell the neighbor who has their windows open? My windows are open. Do I smell what they're cooking? Can I smell baby poop? Good. You know, it's just, again, zeroing in on that to interrupt the brain that is trying to sabotage you. So we did taste, even taste. If I'm drinking something, if I have a mug full of something, then I feel the coldness of the material. I feel the hardness against my lips. I feel my tongue where that's at. So when you're with a client and they're saying something and you are triggered by whatever, or you're thinking you're not fully present, take a moment to grab your glass of whatever you have, water or juice, and take a sip. They don't know. They have no idea that you are having this internal conversation with yourself, that you're interrupting the circuit. They just know that you are present, you are listening, and that's how you become present and fully able to listen, by doing the PQ rep. Did I miss one? Hearing is a lot too. When I'm in a session and I hear music in the background, I try to see what's the closest sound that I hear. What's the furthest sound that I hear? Do I hear their breath? Do I hear my breath? Is the baby cooing? What is going on in the household if I'm in a client's house? What's going on in the background? So again, even if I'm talking to someone and I can look directly at them and I can see, oh, and again, I'm not saying it, but I'm thinking, look at that blue on the edge of the glasses. Look how that meets the metal right there. Oh, I never noticed that. And again, I'm focused on the person. I'm looking at them directly.
So I imagine it could be just like a brief moment.
A brief moment, 2
the-
seconds just to
sometimes it
break
takes
that
longer.
cycle. Sometimes it does take longer, but again, you don't have to spend a lot of time. The idea is just to snap yourself back into the present moment, so you can be there for what you are there to do. All right, so any questions right now on anything that we've talked about so far? We're actually doing really well, because last year I talked so much and went so in depth on the PQ that I did not leave room any time for questions. So this year we have plenty, but I also do have
A bonus.
a bonus. So
Bonus.
Brianna, if you could,
Maybe if those slides are there.
if the slides are there, that's the other thing. Yes. Okay, so this slide we took out. This was from last year. This was talking about how simple it is. EFT is so simple. It's quick, it's easy, and it's effective. So no excuses not to use it. Same with the PQ reps. Literally free, takes just a couple seconds to do. You could do a 10-second PQ rep to refocus, to get recentered and reconnected. So it's very, very easy. And again, it gets easier because as you work out physically, it's the same thing mentally. You begin to build that where the frequency and the length and the intensity. PQ stands for positive intelligence. It's just the amount of joy that you have, like a percentage of joy or happiness. Like, let me put it this way. And again, I'll link the there's a PQ assessment, a free PQ assessment, and a saboteur assessment. So the saboteur assessment, you answer some questions and it will give you your top saboteurs by percentage, and then and what they do and how they work, and you can see if that is true for you. And then the PQ assessment, it gives you a positive intelligence score, and that lets you know what percentage of the time your brain is working in your favor, serving you, and in what percentage of the time it is acting as a saboteur and not serving you. So again, you want to weaken the saboteur muscle and strengthen the sage muscle, and you do that by these PQ reps. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we did some PQ reps. So next slide, please. All right, so this is a picture. So we edited in the video of my daughter. We utilized these techniques with my daughter. My husband would carry my daughter around, and one way that would always soothe her is patting her fanny. So there's a video of my husband patting her fanny. And so at this time, she's, gosh, I don't know, under a year old.
Yeah.
But still, or maybe just turned a year. And so he's patting, he's holding her. They came in from being outside, and he's just patting her tush.
She's storming.
Because she was storming. She didn't want to come back inside. But he started doing the gentle patting. on her fanny. They come inside, and then I notice her patting his back. So she's mimicking that exact pattern to calm herself.
Yeah.
Because she was bringing herself down. And again, was she intentionally doing this? Probably not. She wasn't, but something within her.
Yeah, that was when she learned it when I was younger, and then a little bit sometime later, a year later or whatever, even after that several months, we noticed her doing it. It was calming herself.
It was calm, yeah, self-soothing. But it was in a loving way. It wasn't, cried out. This was, that was a skill that she picks up. And so here's a picture of her from a couple of years ago, and that bond is incredible. But she also, to this day, when she sees someone hurting, she will go up to them and start patting them and saying it's okay. And she does that to herself. Sometimes when she's taking a test, I'll see her, we do virtual schooling, and I'll see her just patting, doing her own PQ reps in a sense, because she's interrupting that pattern of fear and anxiety and overwhelm. So definitely something you can do for yourself with your clients, and something that you can teach them so they can help themselves. All right. And again, and once you do this in one area of your life, you can apply this to any area. So you do it in your personal life, do it in your infant massage sessions, do it with your clients, whether at home or in a professional setting. I'm sorry, your home can be a professional setting. You know what I mean. So let's go to the bonus technique. Next slide, please. Gratitudes and acknowledgments. So this is something I do after the session. Actually, I have this written down, Jay. So this is from Rhonda Britton. This is from a slide that did not make it in. I don't think there's another slide after this because it was edited.
Oh, on that one.
There's two that we have. So acknowledgments after the session. So gratitudes and acknowledgments. So Rhonda Britton, one of my mentors from the Fearless Living Institute, she created these antidotes to things. So for example, complaints. If you're a person that kind of feels that the world is against them, what is the antidote for that? Gratitudes. And I know a lot of us have heard of gratitudes. Many of you probably do them. I don't know. Does anyone do gratitudes on a daily basis or semi-regularly? Where you just 5 things that you're grateful for.
There's also Song of the Year by Brandon Lee.
I do. Yep. Actually, there is a Song of the Year by Brandon Lee. Yes. So yeah, you do. Excellent. Excellent. So gratitudes are a way for you to be thankful for things in the outside world, in your world, but they're outside of yourself. And the one thing is, I recommend being more specific. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm grateful for my family, for my friends, for food, and for a house. I like to think of it as, I want to remember that feeling. Like I wrote a gratitude once. Rachel, I have my own children do it before, but oh, excellent. Yes. Teach the children to do it early, because it does. It changes things so drastically. And if you can instill that habit early on, oh my gosh, I think about what would my life be like had I shifted that perspective of the world being against me to the world being for me. Huge, huge impact. So that is awesome, Rachel. Yay for you. Yay, yay, yay. Yay for the kids. So gratitudes, be specific. Like I remember I wrote a gratitude of, I like to say I turned my FUs into thank yous. So I used to take public transportation in Chicago. Some of the areas were not great areas. And I would be like, oh my gosh, we talk about our gratitudes on the way to school to set the tone. Yes. Perfect, Annabelle. Early on, you can do them at the end of the day. You could do them in the morning. You could do a few in the morning, few at night, whatever works for your family, for yourself. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And you just want to make it specific. So I remember riding public transportation in Chicago and being just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could take another day of this. I don't know. I just want to get home. And what did I do? I had to switch that. What did I want to water? Did I want to water the weeds, or did I want my garden to blossom? I wanted it to blossom. So I started saying, I'm so thankful for this person. I remember the person because I had wrote it so specifically. There was a person in this beautiful blue jacket. And I remember this scene because it was gray, dark and dreary. And this person had the most beautiful colored coat on I'd ever seen. I'd never seen that color. And I was so grateful to be there in that moment because I did not know that color even existed. Right. And again, not all of them have to be so in depth, but you really want to feel it. So that's gratitudes. With gratitudes come acknowledgements. So those of you in the chat who talked about doing gratitudes, awesome. Do any of you do acknowledgements by chance? You can couple those two. Acknowledgements, acknowledgements, acknowledgements. So gratitudes are the antidote to complaints, and they're about the outside world. Acknowledgements are something that I use after I do things, like after this presentation, you know. Let me tell you, acknowledgements. Oh, Jay, I got it written down. Thank you. So acknowledgements, according to Rhonda Britton, she has a criteria list that she puts up. She says that they are the antidote to beating yourself up. So rather than saying like, oh gosh, I cannot believe that I don't know how to advance these slides. I messed up. I don't know how to advance these slides. I have to have Brianna here doing it for me. I feel so bad. You know, I acknowledge myself for asking for help. I acknowledge myself for rolling with it. And I'm grateful for Brianna for being able to pull up the slides. I'm so grateful. Yep, we acknowledge that we are not perfect. So here's the thing. Let me read the rest of the list and see if we can kind of clean that language up a little bit. You're on the right track for sure, Annabelle. So the antidote to beating yourself up, acknowledgements, they're focused on yourself. So they celebrate shifts in thoughts, in patterns, in perceptions, new insights or feelings or actions that align with your true self. So for example, in Fearless Living, there's this whole model of your comfort zone and stepping out of it. So if my goal is to connect with my child, right? I have a new baby, I'm a caregiver, and my goal is to connect with the infant or the person that I'm caring for. And my goal is, I'm going to say, every single day I'm going to massage so that I can build that connection. And then tomorrow comes and I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. Things didn't go as planned. And I don't do it. I could either beat myself up and say, oh gosh, forget it. I'm not good at this. Or I can acknowledge myself. You know what? I acknowledge myself for recommitting to start again tomorrow. And because it's you want to eliminate the word not. So yes, you acknowledge you're not perfect. So I acknowledge myself for showing myself compassion. I acknowledge myself for realizing that I'm a human being and for loving myself no matter what. And we use the present tense, right? So you want to say, right now, I acknowledge myself. And the phrasing that we use is today, I acknowledge myself for. And it actually helps if you write it down. So we encourage you to write it down. You know, the goal, not goal, but you want to be as specific as possible, again, with acknowledgements. It's anytime you step out of your comfort zone. If I usually go home and I binge eat a box of cookies after a hard day with a client, but today I went home, I did some tapping, and normally I have a whole box of cookies. Today I had 5. Even though I might have said I'm not having cookies anymore, and I had 5, I'm going to acknowledge myself for stopping at 5. I'm willing to acknowledge myself for choosing health. I'm willing to acknowledge myself for that slight shift. I'm willing to acknowledge, so you can acknowledge yourself for what? For tapping that you did today, if you've never tried tapping, or for seeing something in a different way. You can go ahead if you want, you can put an acknowledgement. So acknowledge myself for trying my best and doing more to connect with my children. Yes, perfect. Oh, Annabelle, that's amazing. Yes, 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 yes. More of this. And so what happens when you acknowledge yourself? So again, 5 a day are optimal. You can do more, you can do less. But again, I really encourage you to write them down. Use the phrasing today, I acknowledge myself for making an effort in connecting with my family a little bit more. Today, I acknowledge myself for trying a new technique with a client. Today, I acknowledge myself for using my PQ reps, for remembering to use my PQ reps. And again, maybe we leave this session and you don't tap for 8 months. And then 8 months down the line, you think to yourself, maybe I could start doing some PQ reps. Maybe I can start doing some tapping. Acknowledge yourself for that. Today, I acknowledge myself for being willing to try tapping again. Thank you, Marceline. Yeah, this is great. So, this is life-changing because you are literally changing the neural pathways in your brain. And so, today, 3 tools we discussed. We discussed, or actually more, because the Am I Still Breathing, right? again, just to interrupt that pattern, make sure you're checking in with yourself, becoming aware, raising that awareness. And then we talked about EFT. We learned some EFT tapping. We, what else? We learned, so in order to, again, all of these things are to be more connected to yourself, to your clients, to your children, to your babies, before, during, and after your sessions. So before, I use the Am I Still Breathing? And I use the tapping to kind of get myself ready, clear out the negative, bring in the positive, reset, feel, my own level of anxiety and need for control to go down. Where can we find written narrative of the tapping, starting with the karate chop? So I usually, so there's a plethora of, there's so much. My main one that I love the tapping solution. So the tappingsolution.com, Nick and Jessica Ortner, they have videos. They've been doing this for years. I think it's this year might've been the 15th annual Tapping World Summit, where they have different people on that are just amazing. There's some of the pioneers that I learned this technique with, Margaret Lynch, Brad Yates, again, Nick and Jessica Ortner. And you can do this for anything. I'm talking about it in terms of infant massage and healthcare and the birthing world. You can use this for parenting, your career, work. What was it?
Working.
Oh yeah, at work, personally, like at the gym, whatever. You can use it in any area of your life. And the
PQ.
PQ
to have those starter scripts. Like for me, when I started doing it, I didn't know what to say. I felt awkward. So just following those scripts to get me started, and then I started customizing them more.
Yes.
And I saw a bigger effect.
Yes. When you customize it for yourself. So this is wonderful to do with parents who are struggling to bond with their babies. Can we ask you ideas on what to say from observations we see during massage? Is it better for caregivers to come up with their own? No, you can start. If people have never heard of EFT, again, it depends who your clients are. And you're there to serve your clients, and the best way that you know how, and you're there with them. So you can kind of gauge, and you could ask them questions. Hey, have you ever heard of EFT? I have this technique that I learned that might help, and do it with them. Try, you don't have to do a 10-15 minute session. You can do a 2-minute session. And yeah, absolutely. Bonding with their babies. And then, yes. So give ideas on what to say from observations we see during massage. Can you clarify? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Can we, as the certified infant massage, give ideas on what to say from observations we see during the massage? In terms of EFT or PQ? In terms of PQ, yeah, you could teach your clients how to, tune into the baby sounds. So what, do you hear the baby making any sounds? Do you hear the baby breathing? The sound of that breath. Is there music playing in the background? I know skidamarinky dinky dink. Yeah. Sometimes we learn that with Jody. Love Jody. Shout out to Jody Wright, who actually trained me in infant massage. Can we ideas on what to say? Yeah. So the phrases, yeah, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Because as my husband chimed in and said, and the same thing with me, I did not know. I thought that I was, yeah, we love Jody. Oh, I haven't seen her in years, but I've seen her online, and she's amazing. So
starting off, you're saying.
Oh yeah. Oh, so start off with the scripts. And like I said, there are so many out there. You find one that works for you. And also, don't be married to it. You don't have to, there's no such thing as perfection here. So it's practice over perfection. And again, sometimes it takes those layers and layers to go through to actually go underneath that feeling and see what's really going on.
I started out in general, just as to kind of center myself more than anything else. And then as I did it more, it was more specific for
more specific. Yep.
Or moment.
Absolutely. So you get more specific. So we only have a couple minutes. I want to, any more questions? I want you to get them in. And then some other stuff when people cannot see the attunement the baby is making with them, and then how their smile or eye contact or engagement cues. Can we say acknowledgments of what we see the parent is doing that is showing more efforts in their connection? Yes. Yes. So you can absolutely acknowledge them. But again, I think, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I think for me, when I'm working with a parent, I do want to offer praise and gentle correction. But I also don't want to make it deflating. I want to make sure that they continue And so I do gently kind of say, oh yeah, that was amazing how you did this. And you can use the phrases, you can help them along. But I mean, as with anything, you ultimately want them to not need external validation, but get that internally. They will start seeing that bond increase. And then, and actually, thank you for that question, because it goes along with the idea of every time that you acknowledge yourself. Let me take a step back. A lot of times, because you mentioned confidence, Maria mentioned confidence or lack thereof it. A lot of times people think that once you get the confidence, then you'll be able to take the action that's out of your comfort zone. And it is the opposite.
Yeah.
The more that you step out of your comfort zone, even if it's by this much in your thought, in your actions, in anything, that helps build your confidence, because you think, oh, I did it. It was so scary. I thought I was going to die, but I did it. And the next time, maybe it might become a little easier because your comfort zone expands. Okay. Oh, so I think we are, well,
We're close, 3 minutes.
We're 3 minutes. So that's the next session. I'm excited to see more of the sessions.
With the postpartum depression and things too, the PQ reps could, again, break the cycle of those thoughts.
Yes, I went through, that's a good point. I personally went through postpartum depression with my first, because again, I felt a lot of that resentment coming up. My everything was out of control chemically. And I didn't want to take medication. And again, I'm not knocking medication when it's needed and in the proper context, absolutely. That was just not a route that I wanted to take. I wanted to try other things first. And fortunately for me, that worked. I know that's not going to work for everyone, and other help is needed. But for me, it was a godsend lifesaver.
They're both simple ways
Yes.
to break the cycle and to
Yes.
refocus, and they're free.
And they're free. They're free. They're easy. So you eliminate all those excuses, all those barriers. And so that's why writing down the gratitudes and acknowledgements is also important, because then, so we forget we're human, and we forget how awesome we are. And so you may have done something, your client may have done something that it's like, yes, I'm amazing, I'm so fabulous. And then the next day they're back to beating themselves up. And so they can go back. You have your acknowledgement and gratitude journal. You go back, you're like, huh, I did do that before. Oh, wait. Oh, I can do that. Can I do it can I take one more step now? And then it's just the confidence explodes. 2 more minutes. Any other questions? I'm so glad everyone was here. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for talking about the things that are hard to talk about. Postpartum struggles, anxiety, irrational thinking patterns. A lot of those things are tough subjects. So the links, no, I am still revamping my website. So by the end of this week, I will have my website, moretothismom.com. So more to this mom. And I forgot, I'm actually,
we have both of them, but so
you
more
can,
the number 2.
You can either write out the 2 or put the 2, and I will have a link.
Brianna, if you could write more to this mom.com in the chat with the number 2, more to the number 2, this mom.com. We will finish things up and have all those linked. Perfect. So, and thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Brianna. So by the end of the week, I'll have that up. I'll have the PQ score assessment, the saboteur assessment. I'll have some research in there that I mentioned. And also, what's the last thing? The link to the tapping solution and some other goodies. Thank you.